This is the guided practice for 5.5, and we are comparing and ordering rational numbers. Okay, so they could be negative, positive, fraction, decimal. Okay. The easiest thing when you have a negative and a positive that you're seeing if there's an equality or an inequality, and then what the inequality is. Like number 1 and number 2, you see you have a positive number and a negative number here. So when you have a positive and a negative, the positive's always going to be greater because it's greater than 0. This is less than 0, so 9.7 is greater than negative 10.3. The way you think about it is temperature. Is 9.7 warmer than negative 10.3? Yeah. Okay. Number 2, I have another positive here and a negative here. The positive's always going to be greater. Okay? It's just the way it is. Now, when you have two negatives or two positives, positives you can figure out because you just go whichever one's more. Negatives, a little tricky. Now, I like to compare decimals to decimals and fractions to fractions. I'm going to take negative 6.7 compared to negative 6, and then I'm going to find 7/10 into a fraction. So I do 7 divided by 10, and it's 0.7. So negative 6.7 is what to negative 6.7? Well, that's an equality. They are equal, same. Okay. Now, I have negative 5/6. So 5 divided by 6 equals negative 0.8333, and it goes on forever. That 3 repeats, to negative 0.94. Which one is closer to 0? When I have two negatives, whichever one's closer to 0, this negative 0.83 is closer to 0 than negative 9.4. So because it's closer to 0, it means it's greater than this other one. Okay? Because the one that's closest to 0 is bigger than the one that's farther from 0. Only talking about negatives on this one. When you talk about negatives, whichever one, when you have two negatives, whichever one's closer to 0, that's the one that is greater. Okay? All right, let's order these. And we have like some fractions, some decimals. So I know I have negative 3 1/3. I'm going to put my negatives together, negative 3 3/4. Those are my two negative numbers that I have, and then I have two positive numbers, 3.3 and 3.5. So I sort them by positive and negative. Now these positive numbers, they're going to be the greatest. I'm going from least to greatest. So they're going to be greatest. So these are the least ones. So now I just need to find which one is least of these two. And the way I do it is 3, let's see, I want to do 1 divided by 3. So this number right here is negative 3.3, repeating. And the next one is negative 3 divided by, let's see, 3 divided by 4, which is 0.75, so it's negative 3.75, not repeating. But, so, which one is closer to 0? This negative 3.3 is closer than this negative 3.75. So this one is greater. So here's my least. So it goes negative 3 3/4. Then negative 3 1/3. And then this 3.3. and then 3.5. Okay. All right. So let's look here. We have, again, we have two positives, two negatives. I'm going to take my two negatives first. I got to find the one that is farthest from 0. That's my least. Negative 2.1 is farther from 0 than just negative 2. So it's going to go negative 2.1 and then negative 2. Okay, now I have two positives. So I have 2.1 and then I have 2, 1 divided by 11. And this one is 2.09, which repeats. Okay, so this one is a little smaller, not much, a little smaller than this one. So it goes 2 and 1/11, and then 2.1 repeating. Okay. All right, let's do number 7 together. Steve recorded these amounts in his checkbook. He had a negative 6.5, he had a positive 7, negative 6.75, and a positive 7.25. Order these amounts from least to greatest. Well, the negatives are going to be least. So I start with my negative numbers. And the least one is the one that's farthest from 0. It's really small. The farther away from 0, the smaller. In negatives. Now, in positives, the farther away from 0, you're getting bigger. But in negative, the farther away from 0, you're getting smaller. So negative 6.75, oopsie, negative 6.75 is farther away from 0 than negative 6.5, okay? And then we want to get greater. So now 7.25, I know it goes $7. And then bigger than that would be 7.25. All right. So it's a little tricky to be ordering them, but we're going to keep practicing it. So go ahead and do independent practice on page 391. Do numbers 1 through 8, and then you can get it checked on the next video.